Coming to you live from WRUE in Tennessee, the Scribbling Women.
Hi, I'm Nancy Rue. I'm a scribbling woman, and so are you, and that's why we're having this conversation. Here we talk about a writing life that's unique to you, no matter your age, your season, the state of your writing career, even if you don't have one yet. You are now an official Scribbly, so let's chat. Last time, we explored the four threads that make up the tapestry of a writerly life. And today, we're going to tease out one of those strands known as dream discovery. This is that soft writing that you do in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, before you ever put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard. It might look something like this. All the inhabitants of your life are otherwise occupied, probably because you set that up. This is the time that you ignore the basket of laundry that needs to be folded. You ignore the critical mass that is your email inbox. You ignore the message from your mother in law. And instead, you steal away to your secret dreaming place. Now, that might be that shed in the backyard where everybody thinks you're in there playing with pots and gardening tools. Or you might go to that nearby coffee shop where the minute you walk in the door, the barista knows you want a matcha green tea latte with oat milk. Or perhaps you just go to a park because you've got your special bench there and you pull out the sour cream and onion chips and you start to dream. Now, the first thing, of course, that we do is we kind of let that mental chatter go away. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. Just kind of allow it all to fade away. I suggest you also put your phone in that bag that you've got with you. And then the dreams start to beckon you. They're like footprints in the snow. Maybe the trail leads you to a scene in a novel you didn't even know you were going to write yet. Or maybe that path takes you to that little teenager who is in her room reading one of your books by flashlight. That's your audience. Or maybe it takes you down what our scribbly Abigail Horgash calls a rabbit hole, and you find that character who's been beckoning to you. Or maybe there's the start of a poem scratched on the wall. And you know that's where you need to be right now. Time stops existing. Maybe you jot some things down, you do a little bit of doodling. Perhaps you do find that journal that you keep in your bag amid the feminine hygiene products and the protein bars and the wipes that you keep for your kids. And you dream. Time stops existing. You look down and realize that you're sitting cross-legged on the floor of the potting shed, pots completely forgotten. Or you've slung your leg over the arm of that park bench. Squirrels have made off with your chips. Or maybe the barista is asking you, want another latte? Something happens. Something mysterious and wonderful happens. And even when you know your time is up, like maybe twilight is falling and you can't see your hand in front of your face in the potting shed, or the people in the coffee shop are starting to mop up and look at their watches, or that cop on the beat comes by and just kind of wants to know if you're planning to spend the night there. And you know you need to get back to your real world, but the dreams are still very firmly in your head. And then something happens. The kids pile into the car and they're all whining, or your significant other wants to know why you didn't respond to those 12 texts that they sent you. And that's when the BOHO arrives. Now, we're not talking about a fashion statement, where you wear those gauzy tops and you wear combat boots with your skirt and all kinds of necklaces, although that's a fun look. This is the big old hairy obstacle that guards the why bother blockade. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's that thing that comes in and just sucks those dreams out as if you never had them in the first place. I think it's important for us to visualize our bohos because it's different for everybody, just like everything else in the writerly life. Something may just pop up for you immediately. Are you seeing that prune-lipped English teacher? The one with the little like lines between her eyebrows and she's staring at you with that withering disapproval? Yeah, that's a boho. For other people, it's not quite that simple. You need to maybe conceptualize a little bit, not a lot, by asking yourself some questions. For example, who was the person in your past who crushed your creativity? Was it a teacher? Was it a professor? Was it your aunt who never did a creative thing in her entire life? Was it the brownie troop leader? That's who it was for me. That was my absolute first one. Or maybe you need to picture that agent or that editor that's on the other side of that harshly critical email you just got. Or perhaps it's the nastiest, most heinous animated character you can recall. Like Scar from The Lion King comes to mind, or maybe Cruella de Vil. We could go out back even farther. Who was the monster that lived under your bed when you were a kid? Was it big and hairy, reptilian, lots of teeth? Now we got the visual. Let's go for the audio. What does that voice sound like? Hissy and whispery? Is it shrill and piercing? Is it kind of oozy, honey, and condescending? Is it obnoxious and jeering? What does it say to you? I'm going to give you some examples from your fellow scribblies. Who do you think you are? Nobody cares what you have to say. No one. Okay, this is crap. A third grader could do this and do it better, to be honest. Oh, honey, don't embarrass yourself. You can't handle the disappointment that's when you get rejected. Oh, yeah, you'll make it as a writer, and blue jays might fly out of my ears. So aren't you a little old for this? I mean, you may have had your chance, but that ain't now. Some bohos are a little bit more insidious, maybe a little bit more realistic, like that 30-year-old all-knowing voice or that old lady with her bitter wisdom. They say things like, okay, so these days you're as likely to get published as you are to be struck by lightning, maybe even less so. All right, if you don't have at least 10,000 followers on Instagram, you can forget about landing an agent. There are cats who have more followers on social media than you do. If you're straight, white, or wholesome, you might as well give it up. Diversity is the only thing that's selling. Who reads books anymore? Darling, you need to make some money, and this writing thing isn't going to get it. This is fun for you. I get that, but it's time to grow the heck up and do something productive with your life. You do realize that spending time writing is selfish. People are starving in refugee camps. The earth is disintegrating. Your sister-in-law needs you to babysit, and here you are making up stories that aren't going to go anywhere but into the recycle bin. Makes you feel like all that dreaming was just flat out pointless. Not so. There's some things you need to know about bohos. First of all, they're just doubts that were created by creative killers, creativity killers, inhibitions about all of your inspiration, dream datchers. They're not your voice. They're not the voice of the divine. God never talked to anybody like that. They're reflections of a very jaded, cynical society that we're living in. It's a very materialistic place that says the only thing that counts is what makes you money. Second thing to know about bohos is that they all lie. Seriously. Publishing traditionally is hard, but there are other ways to get your work out there, right? You can self-publish, you can hybrid publish. There are online platforms of all kinds. You can write stories for your grandchildren, for Pete's sake. The point is, you do have what it takes. Anything that tells you you don't is a big fat liar. You don't need permission except the permission that you give yourself. These bohos will give you more fabrications than used car salesman, politician, those commercials for anti-aging cream. They have no real power. They're like a cardboard figure that my niece used to have in her garage of Joe Montana. It's like a toothpick structure. This why bother blockade can be knocked over with the tip of a finger. So, how do you do that? Well, the first thing, of course, is to make the positive choice. A, you can believe it and go clean the oven. Or B, you just tell it you're busy and you'll get back to it, which you won't. A, you can beat yourself up for being selfish, or you thank it for sharing and get back to your dreams. You can just hunker down and get that story done because you got to make you some money. You don't have time to dream. Or B, you can tell it to go get us some lunch. But wait, it can't. It doesn't eat because it's not real. The only positive choice is to let your authentic voice sing. Let the creative voices sing. Let the true voices inspire you. Now, I think, in my experience, and this is the fun part, it's good to have a one-liner ready. For example, yeah, thanks for sharing, but I've got this. I'm only hearing new business today. Why don't you go get us a cup of coffee? Oh, wait, again, you can't drink because you're not real. Now, this gets us all hyped up, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to take this thing down. I'm going to just blast right through that blockade. But before you do that, just beware. The BOHO is a bully, and we have to approach it the same way that we do bullies. First of all, we don't let it know that it's getting to us. You may want to cry. You may want to throw something or someone across the room. You may want to go pull the covers up over your head. But that only gives it more fuel. It knows you're reacting, and it'll keep hissing in your ear. And the second thing you don't ever do with a bully is fight back. Mental arguments and name calling like die, you gravy sucking pig, it just takes too much of your creative energy. Besides, the BOHO is actually the scared, wounded part of you. It's afraid of rejection. It's afraid of disappointment. It comes from somewhere. And there is value in going back at some other time and finding out, where does it come from? We can talk to it. We can have conversations with it, but not in the middle of our dreaming. For now, let's just say it's all right to go, you know what? I'm okay. I know what I'm up against. I can deal with it, but I'm not going to miss out on the fun. We got to be patient. It's been there a while. It's going to take a minute for it to give up. This isn't just one and done. But the more we do this, eventually it's just not going to show up as often. So here's what every scribbling woman needs to know. You are free to dream. Dreaming is essential. We can create time and space in our scheduled lives, and we can also do this deliberately while we're folding that laundry, while we're nodding and smiling during a sermon that we've heard 1,000 times. It isn't selfish. It's a spiritual discipline. We always end our sessions together with a scribbling nudge. So here's yours for this week. When in the next several days can you take yourself away to dwell in your imagination, or consciously allow that to happen when you're doing some other mind-numbing task? Where will you go? What will you think about? If you'd like to have some more interaction and some more specifics about the things we've talked about today, you can visit the Scribbling Woman blog, which is available at www.nancyrue.com. Until next time, Scribbling Women, scribble on.